Hey everyone, happy Friday. It has been a really crazy week for me. I hope your week is better. I know that there's a lot of us out there kind of scrambling, going, when will this year end? I think we thought the same thing last year and maybe the year before because it seems like the intensity keeps building. I don't know if it's the same for you, but from everything I've seen, it really has, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to do this topic. The other one was as I started thinking about some stuff that was really kind of hitting my door, kind of knocking reality check, and things started happening, and I was going, "What am I bringing? Why am I doing this? What am I creating? Why am I doing this to create this situation?" Now, I realize that that's one of those things that we don't always go in and we don't always think about. What did we do? And that's why I wanted to talk about spiritual victims. For example, this is what kind of got me started on this. Um, in the center, we have two HVAC units. Last year, one went out, and we were without heat in the front for 30 days. Now, that may not seem like a big deal because I'm in New Mexico, but it really is because the nights get down to 20 degrees this time of year, and the days warm up to, if we're lucky, 50. I agree it's not 20 during the day, so I'm not like the cold white north that gets all this snow and stuff, but my blood is still thin because we have 100-degree summers. And this year, the other HVAC went out, and I tried everything. I talked to I had two HVAC companies come and look at it. I had an electrician come look at it. I turned it over to my landlord. They had somebody that came and hooked it all back up in spite of the fact that there was some major problems with it. So everything is getting worked out, but I'm like 2 years in a row without heat. Wow. What is it? Am I just resisting? So, then there's the situation where I thought, wow, I better order my contact lens before my script runs out. I need to order another, 6 lens, um, 6 sets, I should say. And I placed the order. I was told 2 to 4 weeks. No, 7 to 14 days. That's what it started out with. 7 to 14 days. And I thought, well, this is great. I'm going to be 7 to 14 days. I'll have new lens. And then I lost one lens. Well, yay, I found it. So I washed it off real good, popped it in my eye, and went about my day. And the next day, I lost it again. And I'm thinking, what? Why am I insisting on losing these lenses? So I thought, whatever, I'll just wear my glasses. My contacts will be in anytime. And I got a phone call. And the phone call was, oh, because you wear toric lenses, those actually they take a lot longer. So it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks. And they're now on back order. So we'll send you a tracking label when you should be getting these things. And the funny thing about that is that in that 40-minute projection, whatever, that they went into, where it happened, I was really struggling. So that's why I needed to take an assessment and see where I was on this journey of spiritual victimization. We have a tendency to think that we're victims when things don't go our way. And that's kind of normal because when we do everything within our realms of possibilities to make everything go perfect and it still doesn't turn out, we have that tendency to go in and say, what did I do? How come the world is being mean to me? They're not nice to me over here. So I wanted to talk today about how to spot when you or somebody else is actually a spiritual victim. Now, I know it's real popular nowadays to, when things don't go our way, somebody else is in the activity with us, or they're um, in a relationship of some sort with us, for the blame game to start. So that's one of the ways that we do this. We blame them. Well, they must be a narcissist. They must be bipolar. They must be depressed. They must not love me. They must not like me. They have it against me. They're jealous of me. And when we start doing that, we start not being accountable. Because remember, we're in this together. So two people will bring themselves to each other to teach each other what it is that we're supposed to be learning. And when you can recognize that you have a pattern of, somebody done me wrong, and that pattern, tends to turn into bitterness. My family didn't love me. My dad beat me. My mother left me out in the cold. They didn't recognize my spiritual gifts. They were baby boomers that believed in beating me. Um, they were the silent generation who wouldn't talk. They just smacked everybody around, which is what causes the problems with the baby boomers. And then we have our friends. Oh, they weren't there for me this one time I really needed them. And it's their fault that I didn't get the job I wanted. It was their wishing ill on me. And this is a pattern that we can sometimes get into. Um, Nobody's cursing anybody. Now, I will say that negative speak is really rough. So we have all done it. We all have to admit it. In fact, there was a time I had gotten in a car accident about a year ago this time, and I was going through Rolfing. Well, Rolfing brings out some very deep core emotions. And I tried to tell everybody around me and tried to warn them. Wow, if I'm acting cranky, I don't mean it. I apologize ahead of time. I'm really trying to emotionally release all this stuff that's been built up over years. And it will come off sounding probably very intense or not nice. And I don't mean to be snapping at you or whoppish at you. I'm trying really hard to get through the pain of this injury, and I'm going through some deep stuff. Well, with that being said, if I did explode, I tried to apologize. I will apologize for the things that I feel like I have done that were not quite necessary to have espoused, or not quite in polite. It wasn't supportive. I try to apologize. I don't always catch every infraction that I do, but I try. And it's by owning that I recognize, oh, well, maybe I'm not in my integrity, or maybe this is happening. But what ends up happening is that we have that tendency to bring in that bitterness, that anger, that deep-seated pain that's really deep inside of us, that makes us a victim to our circumstances in the today's world. And we need to kind of own that and say, hey, you know what? This isn't who I want to be. I really want to be the person who changes that. So letting go of the bitterness or the judgment about the bitterness is a really important part of our world and how we start to evolve. We can't keep blaming. I remember my mom, she said, oh, your sister blamed me for this. She blamed me for that. I had to give her $50 because she said it was my fault. And I said, but Mom, she's over 18. In fact, at the time, I think my sister was in her 30s. And she has to learn to budget. Or what happens when you're not here? We can't keep accepting the blame from our children or everybody else, when we have to recognize that on a spiritual level, we're not victims to each other. We're partners in crime. We're the people who are bringing the most God ugliest part of ourselves out so that we can see it, so that we can kind of try to change it. It's a really hard deep dive that we do, um, and it's emotionally tearing, and it's humbling, because we have to then start to look at, wow, maybe it's not them. Maybe it really is me, because it is me. And we can only do our part. I will tell you that when you have accepted the accountability for your part, then guess what? You get to move on into a higher state of consciousness. Don't worry about what happens to everybody else, because worrying about them, you're staying in that victim consciousness. You're staying in that codependent that we talked about last week. You can't make your ex sober up or love you or be there for you or to stop cheating for you. All you can do is say, I am worthy of being in better company. And if you're worthy of being in better company, then you move on and you find the better company. But if you're the one kind of creating the drama, then when you're when you're going and moving on, you're going to find yourself caught up in that same drama. So this is how we start to recognize one of the ways that we're still in it, is that we're repeating this with friends, family, coworkers, the neighbors. Somebody done me wrong song is a continual theme in our life. I have family that really, they're pretty powerful in the blame game. Okay. So that's one way of recognizing that we're spiritual victims, is when we begin that bitterness. Now, another way that we recognize it is when we complain that nothing's right, nothing's working for us, nobody's helping us, nobody is understands me, nobody has my back. I have a girlfriend. I've had this woman. We've been friends 30 years, and we don't have to be with each other 24/7. I don't even have to call her every week. She is such an amazing gift in my life because we both get each other. When we can show up, we show up. When it's important for us to show up, the universe opens all the doors for us to show up. There's no finding fault with each other. We don't blame each other for not doing it with us, for us. We just accept each other in our own territory. She's had some things that she's gone through. We were laughing about it yesterday. No, I guess it was Wednesday. We were laughing about it Wednesday. And the situation kind of was funny because I'm going to use this in a vague way. Somebody that we knew was getting a divorce, and that somebody was putting everything together very nicely and wrapping it all up for their ex to move their ex out, instead of the ex coming in and moving himself out. And me, being the proverbial smart aleck, stepped up and said, we have 4 hours to get this done before he's coming, and we're not even a third of the way there. Why are you going through and getting rid of trashes? Just start dumping this stuff, get it in bags and get it in the garage. And this person was horrified. And it's like, but really, it wasn't the way she would do things. But because she's such a gift. She's so organized and so caring. She doesn't want to leave any kind of fault. And I'm like, but you can't take all of this on all the time. Can't always make it better for everybody. So fault with us or complaining about us, or if we're the ones doing the complaining, you can tell this because they immediately come back with remarks that justify the action or the behavior. or there's a refusal to be accountable. And then it's, I can't do this by myself. I need spirit. Like I yell all the time, Spirit, come help me. My sanity's gone. I need some help here. And my team is like, free will, we'll help, but you have to start doing something to get it there. You have to meditate so you can hear me. You have to, so we have to stop and hear each other. We have to stop and quit justifying that we're on the bad end of this. We have to just love where we're at and move through it. We can't expect Spirit or anybody else to make it better for us. Another way of seeing, the third way, my favorite way of seeing it, is where people blame non-humans for where they're at. I've been demonized. I've been cursed. I've been, attacked. This is really hard because we're the ones that create that situation in which we create a demonic presence to get us, or we blame it on that, or we blame the fact that they've cursed us. Now, I will say, cursing somebody can be as simple as, oh golly gee whiz, I think I hope that car gets a flat tire because they just cut me off in traffic. That's kind of a curse. That's a wish of negativity. So how many of us are guilty of that? And I've said it myself. I said, I wish people stepped one day in my footsteps so that they could understand just how screwed up my head is, and they wouldn't take it personal. Well, you know what? I don't really want them to have to go through one day of my life. That's that's kind of intense. One day of my life and my emotions could, kind of, it would be like waterboarding to somebody else. But, because it's my life, it's what I created, it's what I'm going through. And one of the things that we blame with this, that the outside source of negativity was, I blamed my son when he died. If he hadn't died, I'd be fine. If he hadn't died, I wouldn't have lost a year and a half of my life in deep mourning. If he hadn't died, I wouldn't have to mow my yard all the time by myself. I could have gotten help from him if he hadn't died. Well, what makes me think I had that he did this against me? He didn't die to piss me off. Well, pretty sure he didn't. No, he didn't. I'm just kidding. He died because that was his expression. He is his own soul entity. And how he expresses that in his life, I got to be a participant and I got to grow spiritually from it. But it was another outside influence that we can lay blame on. I remember a girlfriend of mine telling me that she never wanted to talk to God again because God had taken her grandfather from her. So she was thoroughly angry at God. And she was even angry at why he did it and left her around her mother and grandmother. And I'm like, wow, there's nothing you can say. People have to work through those outside influences, creating hell in their life all on their own, be it their family, be it their friends, be it the neighbor. I remember somebody telling me the neighbor was running out there and watching me smudge my yard. And I said, what did they think I was doing? They said, they thought you were putting a hex on the neighborhood. I said, but I didn't leave my fence. I didn't step down in the neighborhood. They think you're evil. Okay. That's their uptake on that. And anything that happens from them seeing me do this, they would go, oh, we didn't get our income tax return check in time because she was out there clearing the land and cursing us. Well, that's not how it really works. We don't get to blame others because of our situation. We have to own it. Of course, I like blaming others. I do, because then I don't have to look at my own accountability, and I don't have to look at the pot of poo that I'm stirring. Nobody really enjoys being held accountable. None of us do. So, how did we get this way? So, we've talked about the 3 ways, which is, anger, bitterness, failure to be accountable, and outside influences. Okay. Fear. Fear comes before all of that. Fear creates a not good enough, undeserving scenario. Fear creates a judgment upon ourselves. Fear creates somebody's judging me. And maybe it's because they felt helpless as a child. I know I did. I had really interesting circumstances growing up. So, my situation kind of allowed me to not be the best that I could possibly be until I decided to change what that meant in my life and change who I was and start growing spiritually. Growing spiritually is not just about accepting accountability, but it's about meditating. It's about being in your integrity. It's about not gossiping, not laying blame on other people, not being angry at people for things that you perceive that they've done to you. It's honoring your agreements that we have. And we have agreements with everybody. I mean, you have an agreement with your kids. You will make sure they're fed. You have an agreement with their school. You will get them to school. There's the agreement that they have clothes, okay, so they don't show up to school naked. So there's lots of layers of agreements that we have with a lot of people. I had an agreement with my mom that I would help her pass from this world, and I did it to the best of my ability. It got kind of rough there. I was very close with my mom, but I still had that agreement. And my mom got really angry at me and shoved me away and brought my sister in. That lasted about 3 days. So my mom was like, come on back. So, because when you're dying, you're scared. Remember, it's that fear that we hold within us that we just can't seem to let go of. We're fearful that we're not good enough. So maybe our parents told us, well, you're not really a good psychic. Or maybe they said that's evil for you to be a healer. That's them. And we have to put that onus aside. And we can't continually play that tape. We have to say, you know what? I'm going to do what I can do to the best of my ability, and I'm going to do it within my realm of possibilities. So those are the things that we can do. So again, another way people go in and they will struggle with where they're at is they'll cling to their savior. This could be a spouse. It could be a sibling. It could be their parent. It could be the teacher. It could be any one person. She's being mean to me. He's not being nice to me. And the whining goes on so that you become a victim to not growing spiritually because somebody else is holding you back. So you go and complain to the Savior for the victimization. Hello, Brother Francis. Welcome. It seems like forever since I saw you. I'm so glad you made it today. Thank you for coming. Um, but they'll cling to that savior and they'll cling to that person who really goes in and has that struggle in what they're supposed to do. And there are other ways that they may have felt helpless is they felt like the family structure was in imbalance. I know this one really well. I was the youngest and I saw the struggle. I had a sister who worked diligently. She rocked it, man. She was always working a job, making money, doing this, doing that. And the other, she worked as a waitress, so there was this tip jar. And the other sister who was babysitting us as kids would go in there and they would say, "Oh, wait a minute. It is the funny thing is we can get ice cream if we go steal her tip money." Well, that's pretty unethical, and it's pretty much a savior thing to do because you're looking good to the kids. Hang on a second. I got to shut the door. There's some talking that's going on down the hall. Hold on. I apologize. Yeah, it makes for good video, doesn't it? So when we go through this and we do this, we can't lay blame on what the siblings got if we had the same opportunity to have the same stuff. And you can't treat every sibling the same way. Some siblings don't have gifts of spirit that are obviously apparent. I have a sister who was an amazing psychic, and it freaked her out. That was it. No more. She was done, moving on. The other one squashed her intuition, and the other one doesn't have control of it. So there's four of us in the original family, and they were very gifted, but they didn't choose to get control of it and utilize it for their own spiritual progression because we weren't taught that that's what you do. So they became spiritual victims to their own intuition because their own intuition, they saw the flags being raised. Hey, this doesn't look right. Hey, this isn't good. But they didn't know what to do about it. So then there's the envy and jealousy of the one who did do something and they were mad because they didn't bother training. Well, training is a very powerful tool in spiritual unfoldment. You have to train. You have to literally give up whatever it is that you think is so important that day to sit in meditation. Yesterday, Medium Circle got together and we hadn't sat for a couple of weeks because some health issues. And it felt so good. The energy so pure and so powerful and so palpable that we just all fell into that energy and joyous because we were all together. And there was no blame because we each sat on our own, but there's something to be said about training together, about building that energy together, about owning that side of the street. A lot of people have spiritual victimization, victimhood, if you will, because they've been bullied. And that bullying actually triggers their intuition. That bullying makes them, oh, wait a minute, what's not right in my world? Oh, wait, I've got to try to change this out. So that's another way that they can get that way is by people being bullying to them or they feel rejected. When we feel rejected, we sit on our pity pot. We do. They don't like what I do. I'm going to do it. And again, it goes down to owning our own abilities and getting training. And I don't mean just simple training. I mean, literally having somebody help you by doing an assessment with you about where you might need to grow and let go of things. It's not pleasant. Nobody wants to know where they're failing themselves, but it is beneficial. It's what I teach in the class on judgment is that you have to learn how to get to the various parts of you that are really down deep inside that maybe you're not seeing. So it's that moment in time that we really go through and we work at bringing it into a better understanding. So meditation, training, and understanding that each person has brought a balance to each other. They bring things to help each other. Now, there's a point that we can reach that we can quit learning the bad stuff and really start bonding to the people who are empowering us. That's when you know you've left the spiritual victimization. Spiritual victims go, oh, well, she didn't let me read. Like I had somebody the other day tell me, say, she put me on the back row of the psychic fair. You know what? Somebody's got to sit back there. And there are people who show up every month that have been coming every month for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And they deserve front and center because they've been consistent. Even when COVID hit, they were only making their door fee. These are the things that we have to take into consideration and quit trying to bully our way through because we feel like somebody has gotten something better than us. We have to understand that each of us has gone through harsh things in our life, but we have to love that aspect of each other. Love is a real key part of this. Love is about saying, you know what, I'm going to love you in spite of. I'm going to qualify this here, though. You can't necessarily love somebody in spite of and then bully them. Can't do that. You can't do that. So you love the person. Sometimes you have to let go of the relationship because they're not where you're at anymore, but you can always love somebody. Love is a big tool. So instead of complaining about people, how about if we start blessing those people for showing us where we might be weak or where we might be failing? So how about loving them and blessing them at the same time? This will help us recognize our own truths and our own empowerment. And we get to move forward. We all do it. We all feel helpless at one time or another, or feel like we got the short end of the stick. But we still need to bless the person who showed us that so that we can grow and really look to see what it is that we had to learn. As soon as you look to see what it is you have to learn, then you get to move forward. Letting go of fear, because fear is huge. We've talked about that. We also have to have understanding. We have to understand that everybody has battles that they're fighting these battles within themselves as well, because we're all being called to grow spiritually. And some people don't even understand what's happening to them. So we need to quit taking things personal. We need to understand that everybody is fighting an internal battle. Some people are scared to be alone, so they'll jump from relationship to relationship. Other people are afraid they're not good enough, so they'll blame somebody else by saying they always put me down or they don't make it feel safe for me. These things, we got to quit taking things personal. Not everybody's going to have a happy face on their face every time they see you. We have our own work that we're doing. We have our own fears that we're contending with. We have our own struggles. And you don't have to hang out with people just because. You just have to love them. And you don't have to do hateful things back to them. You don't have to try to sabotage because you didn't get it your way. You don't have to turn around and go, well, she's only doing this for her. Or he's only bringing this out because he wants that girl, not this girl, or whatever the thing is that we think that we're not good enough for. we have to just love them, and we don't build up hatred and curse them and say, hey, I wish that they would just fall and poop and stink like hell all day. I don't know what to say. I don't want to say horrid curses because I don't want anybody thinking that that's what I'm thinking. I guess sliding into poop kind of is a horrid curse. But you have to just, don't do hateful things to hurt them back. That only builds more negativity between the two of you. And they're going to move on to a whole new level of spiritual unfoldment while you're going to be bringing in more people to teach you that you're negative and you're fear and that you're blaming or that you're a victim. So don't do that. Just love them and let it go. Learn what you have to learn from them. So bring the relationship into balance as best as you can. And just move on with your happiness. Move on with your power. Go empower other people. Be that person who really does know that it's important for us to learn how to create a world of happiness and love. And if you find things that you find yourself doing things in a passive aggressive way, you really need to look inside and find that wounded warrior deep within you. You really need to sit and work out what it is that create a situation in who you are and how much work you need to do, because we're not here for everybody to make it nice for us. We're here to bring light to our own selves, and by brightening our light, we make it easier for others. We're here to help people develop their own skill set and their spirit gifts. Everybody's spirit gifts are different, maybe the same, but different. But you really need to work with somebody who's really willing to lay it out there on the line and help you through meditation, through training, through skill sets, instead of somebody who is going to say, well, you're just not good, go sit in the corner. We're all here to learn, and we're all here to be with each other. So remember that when you have conflict, don't look at the other person. Look within you and find what it is that isn't working for you anymore. And resolve that piece that isn't working with yourself. My heart to all of yours. I love you all. Be safe. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you on Christmas Eve. Bye now.